They could not have planned this any better, as we have multiple huge new reports that have dropped surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs and one particular player that not only has fans fired up, but is way better than we thought. We're going to break down exactly what that is, but also discuss a big update surrounding Nick Robertson, as his future is not only in jeopardy in Toronto, but we have some new updates surrounding his future with the team. Tons to go over today. Before we get off, folks, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. You guys have been absolute beasts with the support, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support. There's a lot to go over today, and obviously the Leafs haven't made a move in a while here, but we're going to be kind of talking about moves that are to come surrounding Nick Robertson, but also Dakota Joshua, as he has come out recently and spoke out and revealed some very interesting details, but also some fantastic details. This is the first time we've heard from Dakota Joshua himself. And of course, in case you missed it, they acquired him a few weeks ago, and he is a very good physical bottom six winger, which is, of course, the role that Nick Robertson was playing last season. And we'll dive into that in a minute here. But let's talk about Dakota Joshua, because he came out and spoke out about not only joining the team, but what his role is going to be, how he's feeling about it. And the Leafs couldn't have planned it any better. This guy seems to love and be really excited about getting traded to Toronto. Dakota Joshua on rejoining the Leafs and how it feels different from when he was younger and first drafted by Toronto. When you're young, you're just kind of happy to be around, putting the Leafs development camp gear on and getting a feel for things, not really realizing all the steps it takes to actually make the team. So now, having a couple years under my belt and really coming into on my own, it means a lot to help and go get this team a Stanley Cup, and also spoke about how excited he is to play under Craig Berube. So this is exciting news, because we hadn't heard from Dakota Joshua. The move, it didn't really go under the radar, but because we're expecting more moves and more moves are to come, this one we haven't fully dove into this. I like this move more and more day by day, especially given the fact that it seems that a lot of the bottom six guys, Jack Roslovic and even a lot of the other ones, the market's not moving, which means they're probably asking too much. I'm happy Brad Living and the trade ultimately, going out and getting ahead of the game here and acquiring a very good physical and pretty good advanced analytics, bottom six winger.
Yeah, we'll get into some of those analytics in a second, but I absolutely love this move. If we can go back to the move itself, again, a fourth round pick, Brad Treliving giving up for Dakota Joshua. I was hoping that the Leafs were going to sign this player last offseason when he was a UFA. It didn't work out that way. Obviously, had you found out that he had cancer last offseason as well heading into the season, so obviously that derailed his season a little bit. So I'm really excited for him to come in and, first of all, I'm not saying that he didn't feel wanted in Vancouver, but you've been traded for by the Toronto Maple Leafs. We see a role for you. That's what Brad Living and the Toronto Maple Leafs are saying. So I feel like he's going to be energized coming into this year. He's going to be fully healthy, ready to go. I'm really excited to see how he's going to be able to play. So that should be very exciting to watch. And then again, he has experience with Craig Berube. And I do wonder, if you go back a couple months ago when obviously Brendan Shanahan was let go or his contract wasn't renewed, however you want to word it, there was talk that Brad Treliving was now going to be working very closely with Craig Berube on who he wants on the team. Not saying that Craig Berube is calling the shots or anything like that, but he does have more of an input than most coaches do, I think, around the league at this point, and they're working very closely together. So I'm sure he had some input into, hey, I totally envision this guy on the third line or wherever he's going to end up playing. Obviously, Puckpedia has him on the fourth line right now, but I love this move. This is a guy who can score in moments that matter. He loves the physical side of the game, and I think that he can put up a lot more points this season than people realize. So just to hear him speak out about, what it means to be a Toronto Maple Leaf now coming over, he's ready to go. I feel like, again, he's going to be energized. I feel like he's going to be shot out of a cannon this season, and it's going to be exciting to watch because he's one of, a few players on a short list that can score the way that he does, hit the way that he does, play the physical side of the game, and obviously try and keep the puck out of his net as well. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with the team this year.
Yeah, and obviously you looked at we'll dive into in a minute here, projected fourth line, probably gets moved up to the third, but obviously this a lot depends on Cal Yarncroke, what his future, entails, and of course David Camp. But he also spoke out on what Leafs fans should expect from him next season. He said, "I like to think that I can do a little bit of everything. Big part of my game is in the forecheck, being disruptive, providing a physical presence, and he considers himself underrated. Whatever Leafs Nation needs, I can provide." And this is just, it's exciting. You look at his advanced analytics from JFresh chart, obviously, responsible defensively for sure. Didn't have a great year last year. It was a bit of a down year for him. I think he's going to bounce back heavily. And not only that, he can still score goals. And he's 65th percentile in goal scoring, which is pretty solid for what they had to give up for him, which isn't much. You also got Matthias Michelli, very, very good. You also got, Scott Laughton at the trade deadline. And of course, Nicholas Waugh for the Mitch Marner sign and trade. Brad Treliving has done a very good job so far. They're still missing that top six, even as the team is currently constructed. I think they're missing one more piece, which they're going to, I'm sure, go out and acquire. He's also going to be wearing number 81 in Toronto, a new special meaning, of course. It's really cool. Him and Phil Kessel, obviously, there. But I want to dive into a couple things. Now, once the trade dropped surrounding Dakota Joshua way back, some reports have dropped revealing that, the Dakota Joshua trade could signal the end for two Maple Leafs veterans, talking about David Kampf, Kelly Yarncroke. But I want to move on now to talking about Nick Robertson and how the Dakota Joshua trade could also signal the end for him, because his arbitration case is set for August 3rd. That's 3 days from now, which is I believe, in Monday, but either way, it's very interesting because not only do I think Dakota Joshua replaces not necessarily what Nick Robertson does, because they're very different players, but his spot on the team. The way these arbitration cases are going here, I would not be surprised if we see the end of Nick Robertson here in the very near future because of the arbitration. And the Dakota Joshua trade makes even more sense if they were preparing to let Nick Robertson go, because as bad as he was last year, not really terrible, but he hasn't been playing a ton under Craig Berube. They literally replaced a player who doesn't fit in Craig Berube's system and Nick Robertson with a guy who does in Dakota Joshua. And with the crazy arbitration numbers, especially for guys like Connor Timmins, I expect the end for Nick Robertson here, which I think also they couldn't have planned it better. I'd take a waft for Robertson swap any day.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the contracts that are, being dished out through arbitration, like you mentioned, like a Connor Timmins, it could seem a bit ridiculous, face value, I guess, $2.2 million. But with the rising cap, it does actually make a lot of sense for him, obviously as the cap continues to go up the next couple of years. But the Toronto Maple Leafs can't afford a contract like that. That's the biggest deal here, right? Like in Nick Robertson, they can't afford that much money because you still have to go out, like you said, and make another move in August to get one more piece in the top six, because I feel like this team is a little incomplete without that piece right now. It's still looking good, and I feel very confident in this team, and I think as is, they'll still make the playoffs, but to really make noise and compete for a Stanley Cup, you need one more piece. So I don't think that the Toronto Maple Leafs, depending on what he is awarded in arbitration, the last arbitration case in the entire league is Nick Robertson. Again, it's going down August 3rd. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I feel like some of the domino pieces are going to start falling now, like a Jack Roslovic I keep bringing up. Nick Robertson, once we find out what he's been awarded, obviously do the Toronto Maple Leafs then make a trade? Because like you mentioned, even if you put all the money aside, which obviously you can't really do because you have to think about it, right? And of course, the Leafs don't have that much cap space right now, and they're going to have to make a move or two. The fit on the actual team in the lineup, you have Bobby McMann there. You have Dakota Joshua there now, who's pictured on the fourth line there. I don't think that's the case. He's a third line player to me. I think he can play third line minutes, and he can score as a third liner. He brings that physicality, all of those things, and I think that's the plan for him. So, that's not going to happen. You have a bit of a logjam there, and then, you don't even have Pizzetta here, who I don't think is going to play every game, but he's not even pictured here, right? So we have to consider him as well. So you put in Pizzetta there. Joshua's not a fourth liner. He's a third liner. Where does this leave Nick Robertson, who's not even here as well? You have McMahon still in the mix, who, I did say don't get married to the fact of, or don't get married, I guess, to Bobby McMann on this team. I think that there's a real possibility they can move off of him. But that being said, you still want to give him that opportunity. There's no real reason to move him. You could in a trade if, it made sense. He's not untouchable or anything like that. But, obviously heading into next year, it's going to be very interesting to see what the lines look like and what the Leafs are planning down the stretch, because I don't think Yarncroke or Kampf fit this team. I would argue that Robertson, for me, teetering, right? One way or another right now, I'd say it's 50-50. They do have to free up some money still, depending on what he's awarded. I think there could be a trade coming next week. And one thing's for sure, I think Dakota Joshua is a third liner. I think they acquired him to play on the third line, and I think that he's going to have a great season.
Yeah, let us know down below your thoughts are on all this. Do you want to see Nick Robertson return to Toronto, or do you want to see them let him go in exchange for somebody else? Thank you guys for watching. See you later.